Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. It's time for that weekly mod collection demo shop recap. Unfortunately, tragedy struck. Gibson's website was broken at the time of update this week, so if you visited it, you probably had some sort of an error message. Now, I actually got a few pages to load, and one was a page that said, the new Gibson, right up here, and then it just had like a couple of hyperlinks. It was like clearly an unfinished like prototype thing. Unfortunately, I didn't grab a screenshot, and the next time I had refreshed the page, trying to get things to load, it was gone. So, I think Gibson just might be working on their website so we don't have to have all these traffic issues anymore. Or at least that's what I'm hoping for. I'm not sure what time the site actually came up, but the first time I saw anything was about 40 minutes after the usual upload, and there were 13 guitars. So that means we probably missed about 3 or 4. Well, let's go ahead and dive into here. Starting first, the Les Paul Studio in Sewer Silver. Is this another one for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection? I don't know, maybe. It's got Sewer going for it, but if you really zoom in here, it's almost like a really dull silver burst. That's both perimeter and teardrop shape burst combined. That's kind of interesting. I don't think they've done that before. It kind of gives it a really offset vibe. But perhaps the most jarring thing about this one besides the custom finish is look at our pickup covers. Not only do we have a double row of exposed pole pieces on only the bridge one, but they also have the Gibson branding. It's like they just didn't age those areas. That's interesting. It's kind of a throwback to what they used to do in 1972. Then the mid-90s and sometimes early 2000s they would experiment with something similar. But the headstock looks normal. The back, unfortunately, didn't get the sewer burst. But that's interesting. They're saying the neck pickup is also the Dirty Fingers? That's gotta be wrong. That can't be right. It's either that or the other rows just hidden under the covers. I don't know. Next up, we have an SG bass. There were like 2 or 3 of these things. It appears that they didn't put a pick guard on it, and they upgraded the bridge and did matching chrome appointments. All in all, I guess I'm not surprised that these things haven't sold incredibly fast. I'm honestly kind of disappointed they didn't do some crazy exotic finishes or something with these. Next up, I thought this 339 looked weird. Heritage Cherry Sunburst. I mean, it's got a good color to it, but those uncovered pickups look so bizarrely weird on this thing. It reminds me of a cartoon character with eyes that are larger than normal, because 339s, they're shrunken down 335s, but the pickups are the same size in both. But the back on that one, tastefully bursted, and appears to have some decent figuring. Must have been Zebra Week, because they also did the same thing on a SG Standard in ebony. Doesn't look like too much to talk about here, but I love those reflections right there. It looks like a crying, sad face. But whoa, okay, yep. This is why you watch my show. I look at all the photos. It's got the white stinger, but what I'm flabbergasted about is why did it get the Gibson prototype stamp? I mean, in this case, it's just Gibson original modified, but I thought this was rather boring. Are we missing something? Modifications consist of satin neck finish with cream stinger, zebra burst bucker, and gold top hat knobs. And it comes with a gig bag. Seems like they're getting a little bit loosey-goosey what they put that stamp on. Are they going to retire mod and just start doing that on everything? I hope not. Next, there was a Les Paul Classic that they gave the custom shop VOS treatment to. Looks like we got different pickups, maybe BFG knobs on there, very tasteful wood grain, and no pick guard. Kind of cool. And it looks like you even get a little bit of figuring on the back. Not bad if you want a custom shop vibe guitar on Gibson USA budget levels. But this was probably the craziest one this week, Saddle Brown Satin. Now, at one point in time, Gibson did an SG that had an acoustic bridge, and I think they might have called that Saddle Brown. But this one, now that I zoom in, so they've designed a brand new pickguard on this, because normally a junior pickguard just kind of comes right there. But it's tortoise shell, and then they swapped out our pickup cover, and now they've got a yin-yang thing going on. I don't know if that really fits the saddle theme, but I like it. That's cool. I didn't know that was there. They also put it on the truss rod cover just for fun, and gave ourselves a sparkle brown headstock face. Okay, I guess I can see why they were asking a premium for that. I feel like this one was a little bit more deserving of the Gibson original modified stamp than what got it this week though. Here's a vintage sparkling burgundy. Les Paul Special, basically they just swapped up plastics. Ooh, Ace Frehley tuners. The special tribute might not look like much at first, but when you realize what pickups they put in here, it's kind of cool. So we've got a 70s rhythm neck and then a 500T bridge. You don't see those in guitars too often, but you've got the stock satin finish with complete covers over these, all blacked out. And then this looks incredibly strange on this one. That stinger is like very old style stinger. That serial number's got a whole bunch of zeros in it. This Les Paul Classic had an interesting finish, nice green metallic top. If you like those lush forest greens, this one was probably for you. We've even got the green knobs. And hey, green backplates too, just for good measure. This classic in ebony, looks like they gave it some special pickups here. Burstbucker 61R and a 57 Classic, and just kind of blacked it out. I bet this would look really cool in person. We've got the return of Techno Pink. This looks really good on a 50 standard. I can see why somebody would have picked this one up. Pink finishes with the cream plastics always look pretty nice. Looks like they played around with our tuners too to give it the button style. And then we've got a 335 in Greenburst. I've noticed the custom color 335s, they either sell instantaneously or they sit around for a long time. And this one, I'm kind of surprised it sat for so long. Greenburst, it looks pretty cool to me. I mean, maybe it's not the fanciest finish we've ever seen. They can't all be avocado bursts. I think where they went wrong on this one is they probably should have gave the neck the full-on burst job, because then even I would have been interested in it. And all they have to do to pull that off is just spray the headstock a little bit right here and right there, and maybe a little bit on the edges to leave the purple exposed, and then yeah, that'd be a nice one. So at the time of recording, that's still available for $52. I guess I could be wrong here, but it's not saying it's a reissue or a custom shop. However, looking at our serial number, yeah, that's a custom shop one. And then I went to the sold archives just to look through to see if anything caught my attention. So if it was just like a regular guitar where they changed a couple of things, yeah, unfortunately you can't find it in that mess of a page. But I did find two that I don't exactly remember, so they might have been this week, they might not have been. But here's Radiant Red Magic Les Paul Studio for $18.99. This looks like one of those finishes that would be really cool in person. It's got some magentas, a little bit of purple, it looks like maybe even a bit of yellow, and to make things even better, it's a full-on refinish. So you're going to have that nice glossy color changing techno paint going everywhere. Granted, this would probably look better on a standard or something, but it looks like we also got fancy with our pickups. There's at least a Dirty Fingers in the bridge, which seems to match the theme of this week, so I wouldn't be surprised if this one was available at this time. And then lastly, we had a 70s Explorer that they done up in an awesome tortoiseshell pickguard. So I had somebody leave a comment a couple of weeks ago, tortoiseshell isn't see-through. It is, if it's not multi-ply. A lot of times you'll have like 3-ply layers with tortoiseshell just being on the outside, but if it's just a single-ply layer, yeah, you can see through it. That's how those backplates were done on some previous week ones. It's kind of cool when you don't multi-layer it because it brings out more of the redness. Though it is a bit weird to still be able to see the routes in the body, but it gave this Explorer something interesting, and the back was left the same. So now let's move things on over to the Gibson demo shop. We'll start with the sold ones this week. Here's a Les Paul Studio in Amber Natural Satin. You know, $1,600, so it's very similar price to a new one, but this has some pretty choice wood grain, I would say. Looks like we maybe swapped up our pickups a little bit, full-on refinish. It's a really orange, dark amber look. So I'm really curious if that's actually a red Gibson logo or if that's just the same super ambered over natural being sprayed over the headstock. It's probably that. Now in this one, Gibson accidentally scammed someone. They listed it as Gibson Les Paul Studio Ebony Modified. Nah, it's not. I think if I remember correctly, when these first came out, they were advertised as studios on Guitar Center's website, but in the review and demo, we found out Les Paul Special, so it ranks below a studio. This is a Raven Les Paul Special, which is strange because they've sold those things correctly before. I think they were about $10.99 brand new, but now they're out of production. So hopefully somebody didn't buy that thinking it was a carved top Les Paul Studio, because that's not what it is. This 335 figured was pretty beautiful. Awesome flame maple top. You got your block inlays. And the back is even nicer than the front. Can't go wrong there. Well, we have Ace tuners. Now we've got the Fraley humbuckers. That's a nice looking one. It's got an interesting like V pattern flame top. The whole double creams really work well with cherry sunburst finishes. And then this thing just might be the coolest thing all week. $1,800, they put an FRX system on one of their old Flying V tributes. If I remember correctly, these are AMS Zounds exclusives. They might still be available, but they installed one of the top-mounted Floyd Roses to this thing. And that's just so ridiculous on this guitar because it eats up everything. But this is a reversible modification, so whoever bought that, if you don't want the Floyd Rose on it, you can take it off. The only thing non-reversible is now you have a locking nut on it, but you can technically just loosen those and not use it if you don't want to. And then you might have missed it at first, but they changed our pick guard, probably because this thing was hanging over the original one. And they decided to go with tortoiseshell again in color, which sounds really cool in theory, but in practice, it didn't really work too well. Normally I would think red and army green would go together, but they probably should have just matched the black. Now, as far as the currently available offerings at the time of recording. For $1,200, we've got a Tangerine Burst Studio. It's kind of got an interesting mineral streaked top. Nothing too crazy, but a nice one. It's got some character. Similar story on the 60 Standard, just a nice top, uncovered pickups now. But now this one, a 70s Deluxe and 70s Cherry Sunburst, which seems a little bit redundant in the title, but technically correct. The reason I saved this one is A, they swapped out our normal mini humbuckers for Firebird pickups, and then B, if you went through all the photos, you would find these giant gouges. It's either that or it's a paint buildup. It's kind of hard to tell. Is it going down or is it going up? And the ones on the body here, you can kind of see their impressions. So maybe that's what those things are too. No wonder that one ended up in the demo shop. Here's a Custom Shop 335, looks pretty nice. But the reason I saved this one is Gibson was very nice to you with the Bigsby. If you're gonna have a Bigsby, just buy one of these Vibromate spoiler things. It just makes life easier. The 60 Standard Unburst had some interesting modifications done to it. Again, tortoiseshell, kind of ambered over knobs. Looks like we've got the exposed covers on these pickups despite not being dirty fingers, so you can just see the slug coil and the adjustables. And if you weren't too impressed by the top, I think you'll like the back. That's a nice back, and here you go. Those tortoiseshell back plates work really well with this red finish. That's a cool back. And then this 60 Standard might not look too special at first glance, but did you catch the bridge pickup? That's a P94, humbucker-sized P90. And wow, the black plastics on that just make it look like a studio. But no, that's a full-on Standard. But before we say goodbye today, let's go ahead and check out our friends at the European Demo Shop. They had one of these special tributes in P90 as well. Doesn't seem like that bad of a price. But I wanted to share this one because I haven't reviewed this model yet. I've always been waiting for that right one with the flamed neck. But for me, once again, these photos that they take really help me understand what this thing would look like in person. So it's a very bare bones satin finish. They didn't fill any of the wood grain or anything like that. You can see it, feel it, taste it if you really want to. And wow, I just realized these things have abnormally long back plates. But then when you get to the neck, it's completely solid. You don't have any of the wood grain. That's because they have the maple necks. So they're just going to be a little bit smoother because it doesn't have as deep of wood grain. So there you go. Awesome photos. Once again, European Demo Shop guy. The 63 Custom Shop Junior, SG format granted, but $2,300 for this market? That is not too half bad of a price, especially considering this thing is not absolutely beat up like a lot of these are when they are located in the European Demo Shop. Then lastly, we had this HP for about $1,900. You know, looking back on these now, that we've been with the new era of Gibson for a good solid 3 years now, we've been doing a whole bunch of vintage inspired stuff. It's just like, whoa, this is some crazy, strange alien beast. We have reviewed one of these. You can check it out. It's the hot pink version, so not quite as deadly looking as this nice trans black. But it's got the sculpted neck heel. It has no pickup rings because they screw them in from the back. It's got all the fancy dip switches. We've got the locking tuners on here. This is just such a fancy guitar. I mean, the closest we have to it today is the Les Paul Modern, which I would really like to see some new colors and some transparent tops like we used to have back in the late 2010s. All right, Troglodytes, that's all the ones that I selected for this week. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.